So many of you who attended the workshop last year may have known that I spoke on resilience and using physical activities to improve resilience. This session is also going to be about improving resilience, but using more of the emotional awareness and emotional coping. So let's look at some examples. You maybe have seen this before because I have used it in a previous presentation. This is a video snippet from a group of children who go to school in Chicago called Moses Montefiore Academy, and it's been described as a school for the city's most at-risk kids. And we're going to be focusing on two youngsters, Spanky and Joseph. So as we continue the talk, I would like you to think a little bit about that interaction. I know it was relatively fast, and we can try to go back to it if we have some time. But what I would like you to think about is, how do we develop skills to cope with our emotions? Think about your own experiences. How did you learn to deal with strong emotions? Trial and error? Watching how other people coped with emotions, maybe your parents or grandparents, your siblings, your teachers, peers. Maybe you watched things online or movies and saw how villains and heroes cope with their emotions. Maybe you actually had formal instruction, a class. How many of you attended a religious class to teach you about how to cope with your emotions? How many of you attended a class in school to teach you how to cope with your emotions? So you see, we're not doing a very good job teaching people how to do that. We teach people how to brush their teeth. We teach people how to take care of personal hygiene. But there's little explicit teaching, aside from psychotherapy, about how to deal with your emotions. Hopefully, most of us have had somebody who was patient, like a parent or a teacher, who gave us direct, explicit and supportive explanations and modeling about how to cope with our emotions. Fortunately, there are resources out there now that can help you learn how to do that. Some books, online website, emotion coaching, Incredible Years, the parent program called Child Anxiety Tales, which is a series of online episodes that teach parents how to recognize anxiety in their children and how to manage it. And then this book, which is really developed for people who are very high risk for suicide, who have a personality disorder that places them at risk for it, explicitly teaching various coping skills. And I'll be using some of the material from these different websites in order to talk today. And again, these will be up on the cable website, on the 22q Clinic Center website, so you'll be able to access, you'll be able to figure out what these are. Maybe we'll even have live links. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do when we help a child deal with their strong emotions is describe the facts that were the event that triggered the emotion. So I would like you to think about and just shout out, who can describe for me in an objective way what happened to Spanky? He was also called Montel in the video. Who wants to tell me something about what they saw happen to Spanky in an objective way that triggered his outburst? Yes, bravo! That other boy was copying what Spanky was saying. You were being copied. You were being copied in a disrespectful way. So here's one example of what you might say to Spanky. Joseph disrespectfully mimicked your voice, copied your voice. He laughed when you told him to stop. What else did Spanky do? He called Joseph a goof. He didn't call Joseph a worse word. He could have, but he called Joseph a goof, and he left his desk to walk out the door. Then what happened? Joseph watched the entire time, and he was smiling and he was laughing while he was watching Spanky's reaction. These are all concrete things that have no significant value other than maybe disrespectful that you can use to describe the triggering event. Now, what did we see Joseph do? Well, Joseph continued to copy Spanky even after the teacher took away points and told Matthew to read. Spanky flew out of his desk to Joseph's desk. Joseph stood up, and both boys bumped into one another. Again, objective terms that describe the triggering situations. You want to say that to the individual, and then you want to support and praise the individual's steps that they took towards self-management. What did Spanky do to try and control and manage his emotions? There's a picture of it right up there. What did he do? He got out of his desk and he tried to leave the area, right? That's what a lot of us are told to do. When you're angry, just walk away. And that's what he tries to do. He tries to disengage from the fight. What else did Spanky do that was, yes, I really like that you're helping us. What else did Spanky do? He did try to calm himself down. He even used the teacher's advice to sit down and try to ignore it. Exactly. So he accepted direction to try and calm himself down. And as Spanky was trying to calm himself down, what was going on? Yeah?
He was frustrated at what the other boy was doing.
He was very frustrated with what the other boy was doing. Does it look like he's doing a very good job ignoring it? He's trying. He is definitely trying, but he doesn't have the skills to know how to ignore it. But he is definitely trying. He is trying to tolerate the distress and the discomfort he feels. And then what else does he do that's something that is a good piece of judgment to show that he is trying to have emotional control? He is trying to work his program. Look at the slide. Where do you see the hands? Are they up here? No, they're down at his side. He's learning to keep his hands to himself, as is the other boy. So he's avoiding making it worse. Now, we've described the situation. We've described things that we see that the person is doing that is really productive in trying to help them cope with the emotion. Now what we need to do is name the emotion and empathize with it. So, tell me, what emotions do you think Spanky was feeling? Frustration. What else? Anger. What else? Embarrassment. Yes. What else? Did he feel powerful or powerless? Powerless, right. And so the anger is a secondary emotion, definitely a true emotion, but it comes from feeling offended. It comes from feeling distressed. It comes from feeling inadequate, and it comes from feeling ineffective. Now, what were the emotions that Joseph was feeling? How was he feeling?
Powerful.
Powerful, yes, he was feeling power. Look at that face. What else was Joseph feeling? Security? Superior. Superiority, absolutely. What else? Look at that smile. What's he smiling about?
He's enjoying himself.
He's enjoying himself because he's got the power. He's got the drama. He's got the control. So he was feeling cocky, might be a word you could use. Superior, somebody already said. He wasn't feeling very tolerant of the fact that, I don't know if you guys picked it up, Spanky's voice is kind of scratchy and fades in and out. He was gloating, another word that you can use, and he was feeling glee because he was getting that drama jolt. After you've labeled the emotions and maybe tried to empathize with them a little bit, the next thing that you want to do is have a conversation or have the person think about, what do the emotions do for you? They give a signal to you. They might motivate you to do some things. They're a way to communicate to others or influence others, and they also inform us. Hopefully, this is something from Dr. Phil. Are you getting what you need to get and what you want to get from your emotions? That's the question that you ask. And you notice that that's what his teacher asked. His teacher said, what did it do for you that you got out of your chair and you came over here? What did it do for you? Did he let Spanky answer? No, but he at least planted the question. So, what do emotions do for you? Are you really getting what you want? Let's talk a little bit about Spanky. So his emotions signal that he was feeling threatened. His status was feeling threatened. His body wasn't feeling threatened, but his status was feeling threatened. So it motivates some degree of self-protection. That's probably part of why he wanted to leave the room, is for a little bit of self-protection. It communicates to others. What did his emotion communicate to Joseph? His emotion communicated to Joseph, you're getting the best of me. Is that what Spanky really wants to communicate? Probably not, but it is what it communicated. What did his emotions communicate to his teacher? I need help. I'm distressed. Come on, get in here. Give me a little coaching. What did his emotions indicate to his classmates? Yeah.
When Joseph was, they were all laughing, like, they weren't like,
They were all laughing. They were joining Joseph in laughing. So his emotion was communicating to his classmates that he is weak somehow. Somehow he is inadequate. All things that I'm sure he did not want to communicate, except for maybe to his teacher. Hey, buddy, come on and help me. Emotions influence others. His teacher did come and try to help, didn't he? He redirected him back to the classroom. He said, ignore it. He's trying to get your goat. He also intervened when the boys kind of bumped each other. Emotions can motivate self-advocacy. I think by trying to leave the room, Spanky was trying to advocate for himself. I think by sitting there and taking the laughing, Spanky was trying to advocate for himself and manage his emotions. I think that when he got up out of the desk and he bumped Joseph, he was trying to advocate for his own emotions and for his status. But with many, many experiences like this, you can begin to develop a particular worldview. Those of you who were here in the morning heard me talk about worldviews. One episode like this is probably not going to contribute to your worldview, but multiple will. And the worldview that you might have is, I am defective. And the emotion that triggers that is if I feel rejected, I must be defective. That's emotional thinking. This is something that's worked on in cognitive behavior therapy to eliminate that and motivate people to check the facts. Are you really defective? Even though you feel rejected, does that really mean you're defective? Now let's take it from Joseph's perspective. What did the emotions Joseph feel signal? Yeah, powerful. Hey, I'm winning. Motivated a power play. I'm going to keep this going. What did the emotions communicate to others? What did they communicate to Spanky? I'm putting you down. I got you under my thumb. You're my little slave here. What did it communicate to classmates? What did his emotions communicate to his classmates? That Joseph is the leader. He's the big guy. He's the guy who's got control. You don't want to make him angry because he will tease you the way he teased Spanky. And what did his emotions communicate to the teacher? What did you see the teacher doing? Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, kind of communicated to the teacher, I've even got power over you because you can't make me stop. What did the teacher do to try and get Joseph to stop? He docked him some points. Boy, was that effective? No, because at this age, having your peer value what you're doing is so much more effective than caring what the teacher is doing. What else did the teacher try to do? Called on another student. Did the teacher intervene when Joseph continued to read and didn't let the other student read? No. So again, Joseph is communicating to the teacher. He's the one who has the power, not the teacher. How did Joseph's behavior influence others? Yeah. That they could keep doing it. They could keep laughing and tittering away and making fun of Spanky. And so for Joseph, what did his emotions confirm to him about his worldview? They confirmed, if I can make other people lose their cool, I must be superior. I must be powerful. So let's talk a little bit about why emotion management is difficult. First, there are biological factors, which we've talked about here. Some of the factors that relate to the fact that your level of mental development might be a little bit younger than your peers. You might have ADHD, for example, that makes you a little bit more impulsive. So we talked, again, a level of maturation. Temperament. Some children are more withdrawn than others. Other children are just willing to go out there and be bold and explore and say things. So chronic mood disorders can override your attempt to self-regulate. When you're flooded with emotions, you can also have that overactivate and make your skills break down. How many of you tried to talk with people in the midst of they're feeling anxious and try to rationalize with them? Does it work then? No, because their thought processes are being overridden by their emotions. Environmental factors also contribute to making emotions difficult to manage. The chronic stress that we all have every day. With kids with 22q, medical stress, but all of us might have stresses at one time or another about finances, unresolved conflict, and just as Dr. Angusteri mentioned, families where there tends to be more criticism than the balance of positives. Parents also socialize and peers reinforce. Consequences can strengthen emotional behaviors, and we'll talk about that more specifically with Spanky. There are also myths about emotions. Here's one that I tend to, unfortunately, relinquish into. My emotions are who I am. Expressing them means I'm truly honest, authentic, and free. Well, not always, if you express your emotions, are you free. Extreme emotions get me more of what I want than coping with my emotions. Yeah, having a temper tantrum sometimes does get you more of what you want. You escape from the task demands. Creativity requires intense, unrestrained emotions. Or emotions happen for no reason, and they should always be trusted. These are all myths of emotions that are addressed in cognitive behavior therapy or through the dialectical behavior therapy, for example. So, what was difficult for Spanky about coping with his emotions? Well, he actually had set a fire in which both of his sisters were pretty severely burned. He set the fire because he was neglected. In setting the fire, he experienced some smoke damage to his vocal cords. He was emotionally neglected, and he was never given very good role models of how to cope with his emotions. When he tried to escape that humiliation by running out of the room, he received what's called negative reinforcement. In this situation, negative means something is being removed, so the humiliation was trying to be removed by escaping the room, and his feeling angry was being reinforced. So it was being strengthened. More than likely, it's going to happen again in the future situation. And then, of course, we saw how his overactivation really led to a breakdown of skills that might have been newly emerging. What you didn't see in the tape is he'd been working with a therapist on learning skills on how to ignore. Let's talk a little bit about Joseph. What was hard for Joseph to manage his emotions? Did you notice at the beginning how he was looking all around the room and he was going kind of like this? Kind of has some impulsivity problems, perhaps, maybe a little bit overactive. Definitely seemed to me amped up and kind of in an exuberant mood. He was certainly laughing over others' humiliation, which that rewarded his teasing when other children also laughed. And he owned this belief, my emotions are who I am, I'm the class clown. And it led to his feeling of power and higher status. So let's review a little bit what we can do. Describe the facts of the triggering event. Support and praise the baby steps towards self-management. Label the emotions that the person is experiencing, noticing the degrees and noticing secondary emotions, and empathize. Decide if the emotions are getting you what you really need and what you really want. And then understand and intervene on factors that make it hard for the person to regulate their emotions. So let's review the videotape with Joseph. Joseph disrespectfully copied your voice, even after you told him to stop, and showed excellent self-restraint by walking away. He still kept at it. He mimicked you, he laughed, and he watched your reaction. You felt pretty offended and angry. I sure can remember times that I felt the same way when someone teased me. It sure isn't fun, and it can make you feel pretty exposed. Did feeling angry, though, get you what you needed? Did it make what you wanted to happen, happen? Well, you've done a great job practicing the skills like keeping your hands and your fists down, accepting my suggestions, and staying in the room. Looks like what we're going to work on now are just practice some new skills about how you can ignore teasing and still feel with and deal with the unpleasant feelings that teasing causes. So I'm going to go through these really quick because I've been given the 1-minute signal. But again, I encourage you to look at some of the resources that I showed. In order to tolerate extreme emotions, we can distract ourselves with activities. We can contribute and we can volunteer. We can compare ourselves to others, noticing, for example, how you are compared to others who vary in their self-control, or watching a movie about other kids who've been teased or bullied. You can distract yourself by feeling opposite emotions, reading a good joke book, for example, or thinking about something funny, like a shark tail growing out of Joseph's hind end. You can push away or mentally leave the emotions for a while, like by building an imaginary wall and pushing it away, or imagine putting the incident in a box and putting it on a shelf for now. You can also distract yourself with thoughts. You can count the tiles on the floor. You can count to hundreds by twos. You can name all the birds that you see flying in the sky. You can distract with sensations. You can listen to loud music. You can take a really cold shower. Of course, not in the classroom, but these are things that you could do later on. You can distract yourself with your 5 senses. You can look at photos of cool cars. You can watch funny videos. You can listen to the birds chirping or kids laughing and playing. You can smell a stick of cinnamon. You can smell a vanilla bean. You can smell a fresh orange or a lemon. You can taste a special treat and really feel how it goes down your throat and coats your throat and enjoy that. And you can touch things. You can touch your own hair, the curliness of it. You can, for example, think about touching your pet. You can also improve the moment. This is what you hear a lot of GIs did when they were in prisoner of war camps. They tried to use imagery to change the moment. They tried to think about building their dream house, for example. You can change the meaning. What does it mean that this boy is teasing me? Does it mean that I'm no good? Or does this mean that I'm being given an opportunity to develop my skills? Prayer. How many times do we actually encourage our children to use that? Many times we're thinking, why me? Why am I suffering? Please take away this suffering. But many times what we can really do is just stay with the suffering when we're with our own spiritual being. Relaxation are also ways to tolerate distress. And then analyzing the pros and the cons of tolerating distress. So what I'd like you to leave you with are these sort of quotes by Michael Jordan about even if you fail, that leads you to succeed. Remembering that the way we talk to our children or the way they become coping with their emotions, we become the voices in their head. We need to encourage them never to quit. Remember the power of yet. Practice, see the good, and don't give up.